The Church needs to confess. The Roman Catholic Church purports to serve its God and to teach the word of its God. But in truth, along with the Sisters of Mercy, the Sisters of Our Lady of Charity, the Good Shepherd Sisters, and the Sisters of Charity, it has carried out the devil's deeds inside the Magdalene Laundries. Indeed, the Magdalene Laundries are not the only church and state institutions which perpetrated the devil's deeds, sins, and abhorrent crimes on women and children. Apropos of the state's collusion, the church likely had the state by the proverbial genitalia. Undoubtedly, numerous members of state and government were devout Catholics who, like the rest of society, had been conditioned to obey the Church's dictate, attitudes, and moral high grounds, which, as we have come to learn, were really moral low grounds. Indeed, it can be said that the Church was the regulator of state and society, that the Church was in essence the government. Therefore, while the state can in no way be excused, all the deeds, sins, and truculent crimes which were committed were ultimately perpetrated by the Roman Catholic Church through the power, influence, and evil it has wielded across all facets of society. Since the Church has enjoyed complete impunity, perhaps an act of confession by the Church might kindle a reformative path. Confession is one of the Roman Catholic Church's very own sacraments, which could be adopted by the Church itself in order for it to hold itself accountable for its invidious crimes and sins. The Church needs confession to cleanse itself, to help to repair its relationship with Christ, to help repair the bonds it broke with its God when it sinned, and to help the Church to live a holy life. An authentic confession and perhaps a group reconciliation service from and by the Church in front of its God and women and children and men may help to reform the Church. However, it can never rectify, remedy, or redress the sins perpetrated by the Church and its sister nuns across too numerous substrata of society, including, but not limited to, the Magdalene Laundries. The Church instructed innocent Catholic women, children, and men to make regular confessions while contained in terror inside its various institutions. It is now due time for the Church to confess. The Church needs to confess, and not because it may feel obligated or fear retribution. Confession is not a requirement. Rather, it should be viewed as a gift, as the Church's very own holy sacrament, and as an opportunity to repair the Church's connection with its God. The Church needs to confess, and perhaps it can adhere to the same confession requirements it has delineated for Catholics everywhere, including instructions for before, during, and after confession. Firstly, preparation for the sacrament of penance should consist of a thorough examination of conscience, a review of mortal and venial sins, and a firm resolution not to sin again. This examination can help to prepare the Church to confess to its God. Before confession, it is recommended to prepare a list of sins, and the penitent Church should be truly sorry for its heinous sins. God's grace, alongside the intention to reform, may give the Church the strength to resist and overcome temptations to sin in the future. During confession, the penitent Church can make the sign of the cross and say the words, "Bless the Church, Father, for the Church has sinned. These are the sins of the Church." The Church can then describe its sins honestly and outline the circumstances and root causes of its sins, beginning with the ones which are most difficult to confess and without making excuses. If the Church is uneasy or unsure what to say, the Church can place its trust in its God and ask its God for advice and direction. God can help the Church to make a good confession. A true confession begins with a penitent who is truly sorry for the sins which have been committed and who is determined to restore their relationship with God. Being honest and open with its God while confessing sins may help the Church to heal and grow and to begin to live a life following the word of its God. Following the confession of its sins, the Church can conclude with the words, "The Church is sorry for these and all the sins of the Church, its clergy, and its sister nuns." The Church, as penitent, might then pray an act of contrition to express unfeigned sorrow for its sins. This prayer might be verbalized in front of its God and all women, children, and men as follows. My God, the Church is sorry for its sins with all its heart. In choosing to do wrong and failing to do good, the Church has sinned against you, whom the Church should love above all things. The Church firmly intends, with your help, to do penance, to sin no more, and to avoid whatever leads the Church to sin. Amen. Finally, only God can orchestrate the penance for the Church. There is no higher or lower than God. Only God can absolve the Church from its sins, and the Church as penitent should complete its assigned penance. Penance can help the Church to strengthen its faith and to reconcile with its God. Penance can also remind the Church to put God's love of all creatures first and to endeavour to live a life free of sin. It's due time for the Church to confess. This is dedicated to my grandmother and to her daughter, my mother, and to all the women, children, and their descendants on whom the Church and its agents have perpetrated odious and irrefutable suffering.